Hi crafting friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, a special welcome. I've created this compilation of 5 of my most popular videos I think you'll enjoy. They're all new for the 2024 holiday Christmas season. They range from gingerbread houses I've transformed using the Dollar Tree doll houses and cobblestone village houses to jeweled Christmas trees, melting snowmen, and decorated lanterns. So sit back and enjoy. I have abbreviated each of these so that you can get the highlights of these popular trends. I've also included some busted canvas techniques and tips. I think you'll find lots of inspiration here. And again, welcome. My name is Lisa. And now let's dive into our first craft. To create a very charming gingerbread village, I'm using the doll houses from Dollar Tree. These are the small ones that are part of the Cobblestone Cottage collection. You can either hand paint them by first using a nice primer. Here I have the Rust-Oleum Ultra Primer, and it gives a nice blank canvas for your hand painting. If you choose to hand paint, you want to mix together some paints to create a gingerbread looking color. I tried both. I mixed together the nutmeg brown and the caramel apple barrel colors to get this gingerbread looking effect. Then, for the next house, I tried the Rust-Oleum Warm Caramel Spray Paint, and it was much easier, quicker, and I think the overall coverage makes for a very beautiful looking gingerbread color. Here's what the can looks like. You can see from the lid color, the warm caramel really does replicate the look of gingerbread. After allowing it to thoroughly dry, you can use the tulip puff paint to create the look of icing on your gingerbread houses. Design ideas are infinite, and you can find some fun ones by looking online at other gingerbread house designs. Here I'm doing some very simple ones by just creating lines that I'm crossing over on the roof line. This creates the look of icing, and gingerbread and icing goes together like peas and carrots. You just can't have too much embellishment on gingerbread. I had a lot of fun trying different techniques, and while that puff paint was still wet, I used this fine glitter. Here I'm using this pink color. It's a very subtle color, and I think it adds to that frosty, sugary effect. I'm also using some other sprinkles that I had. Here you see I'm adding some of those diagonal lines right across the top of that sloped roof, and by just crossing over, you create another very pretty effect. Here I'm adding some more sprinkles. These are designed to look like real decorating sprinkles, and again, they just add to that sugary, decorated look. The next thing I did was to outline with scallop designs around the top there. Now I'm just going across the front using some straight lines to outline what's already there in the design of the house. I'm just kind of defining some of those architectural details on the little house. After outlining the details and decorating the gingerbread house with the puff paint while it's still wet, I continued to add some different kinds of glittery sprinkles that would just reflect the light in pretty ways and make the whole design look more sugary and special. And for a final flourish, I added a drop of hot glue and attached a little pink pom-pom on the top of the chimney. Now for our next house, I'm going to design it to look like a bakery. And to do that, I decided to use some scallop designs across the roof line. Simple little shapes create a very sweet effect. And again, we want to create the look of icing all the way over that roof line. I'm going to decorate this one using some little buttons that I purchased from Amazon. It's a small package of small button designs that have little gingerbread and bakery themed items. You'll see in a moment just how they add special charm to this design. But first, while the puff paint is still wet, I'm adding in some very fine glitter in the color white, and that just creates that very sugary look. Here you see I'm painting the awning using some red paint just to create a nice pop of color and define the awning over what is going to be our special bakery window. Puffy paint also works well to create a wreath and then to decorate it with little red berries. And now that our little bakery is decorated with icing, I added in those little embellishments. I can provide that information to you in the comments, but you see there's a little cookie, there's a baking sheet, there's little gingerbread men, and I even put a rolling pin over the awning. These little houses from Dollar Tree in the Cobblestone Village collection also light up. The next one I created and designed is a church, and I put an embellishment on the front in the form of this beautiful angel who's playing music, and I had a little cross that I decorated using some rub and buff gold to first embellish the angel and bring out some of the details of her design. And then I also used that rub and buff to make that cross into a beautiful gold color. These houses lend themselves to being decorated in very unique and charming ways to come together to create a lovely village scene. Now that the church is complete, I'm just adding some finishing touches to our little bakery. These little hot mitts look so cute in the gingerbread's hands. And these, again, are buttons that I bought in a package from Amazon. They have that gingerbread bakery theme. You can see the rolling pin over the awning completes the scene. And I added in some of the Dollar Tree miniatures from the Cobblestone Village collection. As you'll see, we create our entire village scene. To create that landscape, I'm using a piece of styrofoam that I got in a box. It was part of packing material. And then I'm going to use this snow blanket I bought from Amazon to create the snowy ground. I also sprinkled on some snowflakes from Dollar Tree. You'll see that as I create this village scene, I'm using a wide variety of items, mostly from Dollar Tree. I use some of the little figurines from the Cobblestone collection, but first you want to build your background. And to do that, I use that piece of styrofoam as well as an empty box and a string of lights. Dollar Tree sells lights. You can get them just about anywhere. They're very pretty under the snow blanket because it does serve to illuminate that snow scene, creating almost a moonlit look to the snow background. Dollar Tree has a nice assortment online as well as in the store of all of their new little village houses as well as their little miniatures. These little miniatures add a lot of personality to your village scene, and you can choose ones that correspond nicely to the theme that you're creating. Here I have a church, a bakery, I have a North Pole. You can see in the churchyard I have also a miniature nativity set that I had in my own collection. I also add in a variety of different colored bottle brush trees that the Dollar Tree sells. Here's an assortment that I had gotten. It's a bakery scene with the baker holding a loaf of bread, and that looks really cute next to the bakery. I also have a father holding up a little boy, putting a star on a tree in the churchyard. These gingerbread village scenes are fun, easy, and inexpensive to create. You'll really enjoy making one of these. You could make it as extensively as you wish, depending on how many houses you want to decorate, how many miniatures you want to personalize your scene. But they really are a lot of fun, and creating that snowy backdrop is easy to do. You can see I also added some white fence line just to give it some additional definition. And I sprinkled in those Dollar Tree snowflakes all over the scene. They add that pretty sparkle and shine that glistening snow always has. And before we move on to our next craft, I think you'll also really enjoy, I want to just focus on some of the little miniatures. Here's Santa at the North Pole. You can see the sign, Welcome to the North Pole. And I'd love to hear in the comments below which is your favorite and ideas that you may have to personalize one of these villages. Now we'll move on. I'm anxious to show you this next project using a Dollar Tree sign as well as some jewelry. To create a beautiful jeweled tree, I took a sign from Dollar Tree. It was a very solid piece for $1.25, and I combined it with vintage jewelry, costume jewelry, and items that I purchased in a collection from Totally Dazzled. You can use anything that you find. Mismatched earrings work well, costume jewelry, items that you can find at Dollar Tree or vintage shops. Let your imagination take flight as you put together one of these beautiful jeweled embellished designs. Here are some of the items that I'm using. The little bird's nest with the bird is one that I've had since I was a little girl, and it worked in nicely. This is the sign that I bought for $1.25 from the Dollar Tree. It's a really well-made piece for the price. It has a sawtooth hanger on the back, and when I looked at the bishop chess piece on the front, it reminded me of the outline of a Christmas tree. So I'm beginning by painting the frame in a nice rich black color. I wanted to try out the Dixie Belle paint in the color Caviar. So I'm just using a sponge brush to evenly apply 2 coats of that paint to the frame's outline. I wanted to accentuate the black to bring out the black in the design of the chess piece that we're going to transform into our Christmas tree. I'm using a heat gun just to hasten the drying in between the 2 coats of paint. The next step is to apply some Mod Podge. I had some glittered Mod Podge in my stash, so I'm applying that to the surface of the front. I'm using that as an adhesive so that I can add some additional glitter just to create a shimmery background. Then I sprinkled on this very fine glitter that I purchased from Amazon. It comes in a variety of colors, and the very fine texture does add a beautiful shimmer. Next, I'm going to add in the jewelry, and I'm going to follow the outline of this design because, again, it does create the look of a tree. I'm adding in the crown with the cross to acknowledge the true meaning of Christmas, the celebration of Jesus Christ, our Savior. And I tucked that in under the large jewelry item at the top. Following that curve, I'm now adding some hot glue and attaching my next piece. As you go down, you want to use pieces of jewelry that follow the contour of the design that you're trying to outline and accentuate. You can see that I'm going down using that chess piece as our Christmas tree design. Here's a really cute one. It's a car carrying a Christmas tree, and I thought that would be pretty right in the center. To add a pop of color, you can see I added in some jewels that had some pretty vibrant colors. And now I'm just adding the hot glue to secure them in place. This is a ribbon-shaped jewel, which has some stones in it that really does reflect the light beautifully. Continuing around the curves of the design, I'm now adding in a Santa Claus with a sack on his back and this pretty oval-shaped one that has a lot of red stones in it. And you can see as you look through the jewels, you'll see which ones fit nicely along those contours which accentuate the design. If you can't find this exact design at Dollar Tree, you could always get something that approximates it, or you could get your own frame and paint it and just sketch in a basic design of a tree. I've seen a wide variety of jeweled trees at craft shows, and the uniqueness of each really does add to the appeal. Here you can see I'm putting in a Christmas tree jewel right as we go down toward the base, and along that base I'm going to put in larger jewels. As I fill in more of the design, I'm also going to leave some of that white exposed, suggesting the look of snow against those branches. Here's a little antique piece of jewelry. It's a bird's nest, and was my mom's when she was a little girl, and she gave it to me. So we've had it in the family for a long time. Here now I'm adding some others right along the side, and this sweet little ribbon with the pearl on it is another nice piece that I'm just going to tuck in sideways there. Now against that white, I'm adding in a little bit of Mod Podge, and onto that adhesive, I'm adding in some more of the white fine glitter, just to, again, evoke the look of snow-covered branches. This has turned out so beautifully. It's a one-of-a-kind piece. Now I want to cover up the word bishop at the bottom. So to do that, there's a variety of ways, but I just went ahead and put some Mod Podge down into those letters, and now I'm sprinkling in some of the Dollar Tree snowflakes that come in a package. I'm also going to add in some Waverly chalk paint and create another layer of the snow, and that serve to conceal those letters and create a nice snowy foundation for our tree. I also wanted to add in a trunk, so I used some of the bling wrap from Totally Dazzled to create a trunk. To add visual interest, I carried the trunk all the way out over the front of the frame. Here you can see it's beautiful from the top crown all the way down to the colorful jewels, the pearls, and all the bling and sparkle. It really looks beautiful in our entry hall and catches the light from the front door in lovely, sparkly ways. Our next project captures the true meaning, the reason for the season. I created this little nativity in a folk art style using virtually all Dollar Tree items. It was fun to do. It would be a wonderful project to do with children, and it creates a small, very charming nativity scene, a scene that will add charm and delight to any little spot where you display it. Adding small fairy lights and a little bit of greenery really does enhance the overall look, and I'll show you the easy steps to create it. But first, we're going to make this lantern scene. To do this, I purchased this lantern from Amazon. You can find lanterns almost anywhere. Dollar Tree has them in the plus section, as well as thrift shops, hobby shops, Walmart. They're easy to find. I bought this empty one from Amazon, and I created the little scene inside, and I lit it from the top. I'll show you how I did it. Once you learn the basic steps, you can create any charming scene inside. So to begin, I took this empty lantern and I fed through the top some small fairy lights. You want to put the lights into the top so that the light flows down, but you don't want to see any wires or any light bulbs. So to conceal this, I put them into the top of the lantern and held them in place with some packing tape. I also used some floral foam to kind of fill in some of the gaps and to hold them in place. One person very thoughtfully suggested that I could use one of those puck lights that would just fit up inside and would be easy to turn on and off with the push button. And I will try that next time. But since I had a string of these lights, I went ahead and tried to use them. And I put them in the top, as I mentioned, and fed in a piece of floral foam just to fill in that extra space. Then I flipped the lantern back right side up, and I used a piece of packing tape. I stretched the strips of packing tape right across the top, and that adhered the lights to it and held them up in the top. The battery pack with the on-off switch remains easily accessible as I placed it on the back of the lantern. The next step is to create the look of snow in the bottom of the lantern, and to do that, I used a piece of that snow blanket, the same that I used for the gingerbread village. I purchased that on Amazon, but you could also use some plain cotton batting. And to add to that snowy look, I used some flakes from Dollar Tree. They sell the snow in a package, and it works really well just to create some shimmer and shine. So now that I have the base formed, I'm going to add in one of the little gingerbread houses that I had previously created. Then you can add in all kinds of Dollar Tree accessories. Here you see I added in some of the pretty bottle brush trees, some of the little figurines from the cobblestone collection. I also had this glittery branch that I put in the back just to create the look of a snow-strewn tree branch. And I added in a pink bottle brush tree toward the back. Then, to conceal the lights at the top, I added in a bow that I'd made using some candy striped ribbon, and I also added in some lovely poinsettia flowers. Using wired ribbon that Dollar Tree sells makes it very easy to create loops and form a bow with as many of these loops as you would like. I also used some of the Dollar Tree poinsettias. Now, I learned a helpful tip. If you remove some of the greenery, the flower blossoms look more high-end. Some of the greenery is a little bit flimsy looking, so by using just those flowers and embellishing those flowers with some pearls in the center, you can really elevate the look of the Dollar Tree flowers. So I am doing just that as I remove them from the stems and stack them on top of our looped bow. Here you can see I've added 3 so far, and the goal is just to completely conceal all of the top where you see all of the wires and the lights. And it's really fun and easy to do this. Making these bows is so easy with the wired ribbon, and then you can add in any flowers you would like that goes with your color scheme. You can see how beautifully this finishes off the top, and adding in the pearls into those flowers is another lovely embellishment. And finally, to carry our baking theme right to the top, I added in this little gingerbread baker using some hot glue, attaching it right to the center of the bow. You can see this makes a lovely illuminated centerpiece. You can see the little snowman peeking out of the frame, and as we open it up, you can also see the little white fence that defines the front. And again, you can see how the Dollar Tree cobblestone miniatures add personality and charm to the scene. These are a lot of fun to create. You can put any scene inside that you would like. The other one that I made has a melting snowman and a little deer inside, and I'll give you a glimpse of that now. To create the melting snowman with the little deer and the lighted lantern, I used the same style lantern that I did in the previous project, and I went through the exact same process of installing the lights and the snowy layer. I used more of the Dollar Tree snowflakes to add some more sparkle to the snow scene. And then I recreated another one of the loop bows. I'm showing you here just how easy it is to do using wired ribbon all you have to do is fold it in on itself, creating loops and alternating their direction as you place them one on top of another. I created 3 of those, which formed a total then of 6 loops, and that made a nice fluffy bow to adorn the top of the lantern. I then used a piece of the same wired ribbon to secure it together. I used some hot glue to attach it to the top of the lantern and added a Dollar Tree snowflake to the center of the bow. It's nice to carry the theme of the scene that you're creating inside right up to the very top. So you can see just how festive and pretty that looks, and it serves to conceal all of the wires on top. Now onto that snowy design, I'm adding in 2 bottle brush trees. Then I'm going to use one of these mirrors from Dollar Tree to create a little pond. But first, I'm using some more of the cotton batting just to wrap around the trunks of the trees to create that windswept, snowy drifting around the base. This is a mirror that I bought from the Dollar Tree, and I found that if I removed that sticker on the back, I could very carefully push through and release the mirror from the frame. It was just attached with some glue. That's going to serve as our little pond on which we're going to create a snowy scene. You can see now it'll fit nicely into the bottom of the lantern. What I'm going to put on that little pond is a melting snowman. And to do that, I'm using one of the Dollar Tree snowman ornaments. I'm removing the hat and the little branches for arms, and I'm going to actually replace some of those. Then I'm removing the bottom snowball from the snowman. We want to create the look of a melting snowman. So here's some little tips and techniques I'll share with you to create that effect. I'm just going to make an angled cut across that back side so that when he sits, he leans backward against the frozen pond. Here you can see I'm just using some scissors and removing some of that styrofoam, and now he'll sit at a nice angle. The next step is to attach him to the pond, but first I'm just removing, as you see, that hanging cord. He's really cute little snowman, and it's going to be a delightful focal point in this lantern. Now I'm showing you how I'm going to attach it to the mirror, and using some hot glue, he will attach nicely. The hot glue also serves to create the look of the melting snow. You'll want to use a nice pool of hot glue encircling the snowman, and then once it dries, you could add on some white paint. I'm using some Waverly plaster colored paint, but any white paint will work great. The other option is to sprinkle on some glitter while the hot glue is still wet, and that also creates a really nice look of snow. And you'll see in one of the upcoming projects I tried that technique as well. So now I'm just adding to the paint, while still wet, some of this very fine white glitter, and that gives it that look of the sparkling melting snow. The next step is to replace his little black top hat, and to do that you'll want to use some hot glue and put it at an angle, suggesting again the melting effect, making the hat slip down sideways. Then, once you have all that in place, you can put the frozen pond into your snow forest scene. Adding in more of the Dollar Tree snowflakes makes the scene look very cohesive. You can see how it sparkles and shines. And as projects often do, this one really came alive when I added this small little fawn that I found in an antique store. You can find similar little deer in many places, but you can see this little deer is very inquisitively discovering a newfound forest friend. And also through that forest, you can see that a reindeer has taken flight. I have a feeling it's getting close to the Christmas season. From the snowflake at the top all the way down to the snow-covered scene, this makes another lovely illuminated centerpiece. I would love to hear in the comments below ideas that you may have for creating lantern scenes. They're so much fun to do, and they really do take on a life and personality uniquely their own. And now, let's travel to another forest. I'm taking you through this glittery forest of trees and showing you some really pretty vintage items that I'm going to combine with some Dollar Tree supplies, Dollar Tree boxes, vintage containers, gift tins, balls, baubles, and all kinds of charming decorative embellishments. And I'm going to put together some really fun, festive Christmas displays. I think you're going to enjoy this so much, and it will give you, I hope, lots of inspiration to create some of your own. I'm going to begin now with this first vintage tin. 50 years of sharing the very best is the theme of this Nestle's vintage tin that I found at our local antique store. The can is decorated on all sides with these nostalgic pictures, so I'm going to complement it by using nostalgic decorative items. But first, we need to fill it so that we can lay in our floral foam. The floral foam will form the foundation for adding in all of the decorative embellishments. I used some cotton batting, and here I'm packing in some of this foam that I got in a delivery box. So it's just building up the bottom to allow me to then lay in that square of floral foam to serve as our foundation. This floral foam is from the Dollar Tree and is very soft, and it's very easy then to use the side of the can to cut pieces to fill in those curved gaps. We want it flat all the way across the top. It doesn't have to be real neat because all of that's going to be concealed, but we do want to fill in all the gaps so that we have a nice flat surface on which to begin to decorate. So now that we have this level foundation of Dollar Tree floral foam, the fun begins. We're going to let our imaginations take flight as we combine elements to create a beautiful vignette. I'm starting out with a bottle brush tree. Now you'll notice there's some pretty cranberry red in the outfits on some of the pictures. So I found this collection of trees at Marshall's, and I bought a box of 5. Dollar Tree has them as well, but I didn't find this exact color. But for this one, I'm going to use this cranberry red, and I'm using some hot glue after removing that wooden base. That wooden base just simply unscrewed, and now I'm inserting that sharp wired tip covered with hot glue into the back center of this tin. The next thing I'm going to do is choose my principal element, which is one of these from a set of vintage salt and pepper shakers. And it's got a beautiful verse. We give you thanks for all your gifts. And you see she has her hands folded in prayer. I thought it was a lovely echo of the sentiment that's depicted on this tin, which shows a lot of sharing and good times. Here I have an assortment of small balls. I bought 3 different boxes of these. Dollar Tree has an assortment of small balls. These I found also at Marshall's, and I thought the colors were so pretty. Each box has a different color palette. These have a more muted, matted finish, which I thought looked really pretty with the vintage classic look. So I'm just pulling out some that I thought would be really pretty as enhancements. And you can see I'm just using hot glue. Here I have 3 bottle brush trees from the Dollar Tree. These little gold ones again are lovely complements to the gold in the designs of the tin. I'll add in some of the gold balls as well as 3 of these little gold bottle brush trees from Dollar Tree. As you create these charming scenes, you'll want to tie together the colors that you see in the design of the tin as well as the sense of the theme. You'll be amazed, really, as you look at the design and get a sense of items that would echo that theme. I found my items at antique stores, thrift stores, Dollar Tree, and in my own collection of ornaments. Here you can see I'm adding in another gold bottle brush tree as well as this red ball. And you see I took off the hanging hook and just added hot glue. The little wooden house I found in a collection from an antique store. It's amazing how all of these elements do come together to create a really playful design. Now, in this case, I want to also tell you that more is more. You want to really fill it up. You don't want any holes exposed. You want all that floral foam concealed. These items are not expensive. If you look around Goodwill or thrift stores, or we happen to have a very nice antique store near us, and you'd be amazed all the little miniatures that you can find. Some of them are new in the package. Here's some pearls on a beaded trim that I purchased from Amazon. I actually got it in 3 colors, blue, pink, and the natural pearl color, because I thought it would be so pretty woven throughout these designs. It creates a very unifying effect, but also just a very exquisite look as it's draped throughout. You'll see I'm going to continue to add strands of that, even allowing some of it to drape. But now I'm continuing to add more of our balls. Here's a pretty one that I thought added a little bit of brightness. And I'm also going to add in some other little wooden elements to complement the wooden house. As you can see, I also decided to add in some balls that had some of the glittered finish on them, and that adds another really pretty element of texture and shine. Here I'm using this blue beaded strand as a garland, weaving it through around all of the different ornaments and balls and different figures that are in here, even allowing some of it to drape. And it's a very unifying element, very exquisite touch. Now I'm adding in some of the Dollar Tree glittered pipe cleaners, and these are really pretty to use to outline the rim of your container. So a drop of hot glue on either end works really well to hold it in place. You can choose any colors that complement the color palette on your tin. Here I thought gold and red would be pretty, and I'm just securing them all the way around that rim of the container. You can see that adding the red one underneath that strand of gold really does bring in a nice pop of color. To fill in some little gaps, I decided to add some pearls. These are from Dollar Tree, and they're really pretty soft colors that complement the colors in the design. I decided to stack them, so I made a little pool of hot glue and then just secured them in place. After creating a cluster of these pearls, I used some more of the garland just to drape and weave throughout our design. I used a drop of hot glue in just a couple of places, but for the most part, it just weaves in and out of all of the different balls and figurines, so it really does stay in place nicely. The next thing I did was to add some more embellishments to the back of the design. Here I'm just adding a little peppermint-shaped embellishment that I took off the bottom of that pink bottle brush tree from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to go ahead and tuck that in the back, securing it with some hot glue. This is the first time I've created something like this, and I'm so thrilled with this craft. I think you'll enjoy it very much too. It's so much fun to take a theme and embellish it and echo that sentiment from the bottom of the container all the way up through the top. In this case, right up to the top of the bells on the little angel decoration. For those of you who are new, my name is Lisa, and I'd love to invite you to consider subscribing to my channel. It's fun, free, and festive. For our next project, we're going to use almost entirely Dollar Tree items. All $1.25 snowman, this decorative box, as well as a bottle brush tree. I'm also using this sweet little deer that I got from an antique store. You could find similar many places. I'm starting out by adding a nice amount of hot glue to the wooden knob on the bottom of this bottle brush tree. And then I'm just going to secure it in that upper left corner. Now, the next star of the show is going to be this sweet little snowman. I found this at the Dollar Tree. It's part of their ornaments collection. I'm beginning by removing those arms, but I do intend to reinsert them. You could also replace them with sticks from your yard, or I've also used Dollar Tree cinnamon sticks that I've broken up to look like twig arms. I'm removing the hat with the intention of replacing it at a different angle. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Next, I'm going to remove that bottom snowball. We want to create the look of a melting snowman. To do that, I'll show you the little tips and techniques I've learned. We want to be able to position him at an angle, leaning backward as though he's melting in place. So to do that, I remove the bottom snowball, and now I'm cutting at an angle away some of that styrofoam in the back. It doesn't have to be real neat, but you do want to create that angled section so that he'll lean backward when you glue him down. I'm using a pool of hot glue and positioning the snowman toward the back of the box. I want to have plenty of surface area in front of him for the melting effect. To do that, I'm using a copious amount of hot glue, which I'm just putting around the front of him and also around the sides. And you just want to squirt out that hot glue, first of all, making sure that he's secure, and then just creating a nice pool that'll look like melting snow. The next step is to replace the hat, but this time to put it at an angle as though it's melting and the hat is slipping downward. And you see here now I'm just enlarging that pool of hot glue surrounding him. Once it dries partially, I'm going to then sprinkle on some very fine glitter that I purchased from Amazon. Adding this fine glitter creates the effect of sparkly, glistening, melting snow. I think it's remarkable how realistic the effect is. I also replaced the twig arms, and I tucked a little sprig of greenery under his cap. I wanted to conceal the little spot of original hot glue where the hanging cord was as well. Now, before I add in our sweet little deer, I'm going to use a jingle bell from this package I bought at the Crafter's Square section in Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to use that to embellish his scarf, adding on a drop of hot glue to hold it in place. Each charming detail really does make a difference to enhance the overall effect. Now I'm going to add in our sweet little deer. Now I'm adding a little drizzle of hot glue over the ends of these twig arms to create the illusion of melting snow that's frozen again. And adding a little sprinkle of the glitter over that hot glue just finishes off that glistening effect. Now I'm going to use some hot glue on the bottoms of all 4 of the little deer's paws so that I can adhere it in place. I'm propping it up partially against that icy layer. You can see that the deer is now inquisitively looking at her newly discovered forest friend. It's so much fun to see the stories come to life as you put these arrangements together. One of the final steps now is to use some of that beaded trim. This time I'm choosing the pink, and I'm going to use it as a garland around our snow-dusted tree. It's very easy to just encircle the tree. The beads cling to those bristle brush branches. That's a tongue twister. And you can see I'm just going all the way around. You only need a drop or two of hot glue to hold the ends in place. And after getting the beaded garland secured in place, I'm going to add a final decorative detail. I bought a package of glittery pipe cleaners from the Dollar Tree, and I'm choosing 2 of the silver ones to outline the top rim of the lid of the box. By adding a drop of hot glue on either end, it will hold it in place and allow you to still open and close the box easily. This box is a gift in itself, but it also would be very useful to hold a special present for someone at Christmas time or even for a winter birthday. So I want to make sure that the box is still functional while being very decorative. I would love to hear your comments and suggestions in the comment section below. Please let me know which of these projects you especially enjoyed. I love reading the comments. I read every one and reply to all of them. It's such a blessing to get to know the members of this community as we share our crafting joys and ideas. Here's the finished project. I'm so delighted with the charm of this, and I look forward to using it to hold a special gift. I'll show you the easy steps for creating the sweet nativity scene. You'll need some of the tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. They come in a box that includes over 70 of these little blocks. I'm going to use these to create some folk art style nativity figurines. The first one is going to represent Joseph, and the second one is going to represent the Blessed Mother Mary. You can see how I'm attaching them, doubling up 2, and then once those are adhered, I simply wipe away that excess wood glue with my finger, or later I started using a damp paper towel since my fingers were getting quite sticky. And you can see here, I put a fairly liberal amount to sandwich in between the blocks. I'll attach the 2 sets of 2 using more of the wood glue to get some height. I'm going to do that for both figures. To create the heads, little wooden balls that you can buy in a package from Dollar Tree work well. And I'm using Apple Barrel's khaki paint color to paint the figure representing Joseph. You'll also notice that I've glued together the 2 figures. I've elevated one to create the look of being taller. Rather than cutting the wood blocks, this works equally well. Representing Mary, I'm using this Regency blue from Apple Barrel as well. And the paint goes on easily with a regular paintbrush. I did apply 2 coats. Most of these figures will be covered up with some pretty burlap and lacy ribbon, but this gives a nice background color. From Dollar Tree, I purchased some pretty narrow lacy ribbon, which I actually had in my stash, and I'm going to use that to just adorn this side of the figurine. I wrapped it around the head, and I'm just crossing it over as I go down over the front. And the goal is to cover up that little hole in the wooden knob, and also just to create the look of a very pretty but simple feminine look. Then for the figure representing Joseph, I'm going to cut some burlap ribbon. This ribbon is also from Dollar Tree, and I found it in the section with the floral arranging supplies. And it was a bit wide, so I did, as you see, cut into a narrow strip that would fit nicely over that second figure. And here you see I'm just wrapping it around. You can loop those ribbons over one another just to kind of create a unified look. I'm going to use a little piece of this soft brown wool roving that I had from when I used to do rug hooking. You could use anything really, a little bit of yarn or anything soft. And I'm creating a little bit of a beard there for Joseph. And you can see that the hot glue works really well for all of these attachments. Now, here's a little piece of a soft blue blanket that I had. Again, you could use any little piece of fabric, and I'm going to just roll it to create the swaddling clothes to represent baby Jesus. All you have to do is roll a piece of soft fabric, hot glue it along the seam line, and slide in a tumbling tower block to give it some form. Then one of the little wooden beads serves as the head. This Gorilla wood glue works really well to attach all of the wooden pieces, and here you see I'm just adding some right to the top of that tumbling tower block and then adding on a little bead. Now to conceal that hole in the top of that bead, I'm going to use some more of that wool roving and just create a little bit of hair. I'm also going to attach that precious little bundle there to the front of the two figures, and for that I'm using some hot glue right across at an angle, and I'm going to shorten that blanket a little bit because right now it looks a bit oversized. But there you see I've added some of the wool to create the look of hair, and you could also use some yarn. Now while all of that is drying, I'm going to turn our attention to creating the stable, and for that I'm using this wooden form from Dollar Tree. After you remove the twine and tags, just flip it over to the front side. And the first thing I'm going to do is take this piece, it's a wood hanging plaque from Dollar Tree, and I'm just again going to cut off the twine and tag, and then I'm going to use that as the base for this three-dimensional stable. So we'll go ahead and use a combination of hot glue and wood glue to make that attachment. For crafting, the hot glue gives you a very quick hold, and the wood glue will add to the permanence. So you see I'm just adding a nice clean line of both glues, and then I'm going to flip it over and hold it in place until it takes hold. I also decided to add 3 tumbling tower blocks to the back side for added stability. I used the wood glue to attach those as well. And now here's the answer to what I'm going to do with the summer sun hat. I just made a little cut to release that edge of the straw, and I'm simply now unwinding it. You see how easily it comes apart. These ribbons of straw work really well to create a floor for the stable. Now that the wall has dried and you see the tumbling tower blocks have also dried in place, I'm going to use some hot glue just on the ends to adhere these ribbons of straw to the floor. This works very quickly to cover this platform, and I'm going to have lots left over to make another project that I'll show you in an upcoming video. But for now, I'm using some of it to create the look of a straw-covered floor. As you go across, you can just wrap the little ends around the back, underside, and use a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place. I also broke apart one of the large hay bales from Dollar Tree, and I put all of the loose pieces in that container. As you see, it actually creates a lot of individual pieces of straw, and I'm just sprinkling some of those over that straw ribbon, and that adds additional dimension and texture. You could always use a little bit of a spray adhesive to hold it in place. And speaking of straw, I'm adding 3 hay bales on either side of the stable. I bought a package of 8 from Dollar Tree, and I've started by adding 1 on each side using some hot glue. Now I'm adding some of the wood glue to serve as the roof line. These pieces of wood came from the Dollar Tree, and I like them because of the texture. Those lines create the look of a roof. So they fit perfectly, and I'm putting 1 of each of the sloped sections on either side. And now I'm just using some of the Dollar Tree Mod Podge to put a coating of Mod Podge to act as an adhesive for the straw. I coated both sides of the roof line and then sprinkled on that straw that came from that little Dollar Tree hay bale that I broke apart, and it gives a very good effect. Now for the next step, I'm going to attach using some hot glue the Holy Family in the center. This is the only item that didn't come from Dollar Tree, but you could certainly find something similar there. I got this from Totally Dazzled, and that represents the star. I want to add many more figures as the project continues, but for now, I'm going to create some animals using this really soft fabric from Dollar Tree. It has a softness that I've never found in the Dollar Tree fabrics before, and the little whimsical animals are perfect for this nativity. So what I'm doing is I'm just broadly cutting out some of the different animals, and then I'm going to use some of the tumbling tower blocks to give them form and stability. So all you have to do is use some Mod Podge. I start by using some wood glue to attach the blocks. Now, depending on the shape of the animal, you'll want to use the blocks in different ways. For this, I'm using 2 of the blocks side by side, as you see, and then I'm going to use some of the little small blocks from a package from Dollar Tree for the head portion. And depending again on the size and shape of the animal you're using, you'll want to use those blocks in different ways. But the concept is the same for all. You want to cover the wood blocks using the fabric, and you want to use the wood glue to attach the blocks, and then Mod Podge or fabric Mod Podge to adhere the fabric to the front of those blocks. Dollar Tree sells the small bottles of Mod Podge, but because I had this fabric Mod Podge in my stash, I went ahead and used that. And you can see I'm just using a paintbrush, and I'm going to fold over that fabric to cover up the sides of the blocks. What's nice about the printed fabric is they have the animals going in different directions. So after I got the front of the blocks covered, I cut out the other side, and I was able to make a 2-sided animal. Here you can see the front is done, and now I've cut out the same little deer going in the opposite direction. So I'll have a 2-sided animal, and that way from all angles it looks finished. You'll just want to use the same technique of applying the Mod Podge to the back side of those blocks, and then lay your fabric down, folding over those edges. Just work that fabric around those edges, smoothing it as you go. And if you need to cut a little extra piece and patch it in. And here you see I'm just adding it in to the nativity scene using some hot glue and just placing it right there alongside the Holy Family. Here you can see I've added more of the small hay bales on either side, stacking them in kind of a random way. And now I'm going to show you how to create the little bunny animal. For that, you just want to cut out the bunny design, and I'm going to use 3 of the tumbling tower blocks standing vertically. That's the perfect design to create a form for the bunnies. And again, just applying some Mod Podge to the surface of those. I had already adhered them using the wood glue. And now just applying that little bunny fabric over top, smoothing around those edges, and then I'm going to go ahead and put it on the back side as well. Having those little animal designs printed on the fabric in both directions really does make it easy to create those 2-sided block animals. And again, you see here I'm just folding the fabric over so that all the edges will be covered. And there you have it, another sweet little animal to add to our nativity scene. And now I'm showing you a third one. This is a sweet little deer in a sitting position that I'm going to attach to the back wall. Now here it is so far. We still need some sheep, some shepherds, an angel, and I can't help but think about the cattle. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. I want to share with you across the street the farm where the cattle are so friendly. They have some longhorn steer that come up to the fence to greet us whenever we walk by. And this one is so friendly. It likes to have its face petted. Now we'll continue. Before I finish all of the other figures that I'd like to add to this scene, I wanted to add in some greenery and some small lights. I also added some little trees from the Dollar Tree. I used a string of the little mini string lights to just tape along the inner rim of the roof line. And you can see I put little pearls on the centers of this greenery. I added in some pine branches to cover up the little lights behind, and I concealed the battery pack in the back of the stable. Using mostly materials from the Dollar Tree, I created this idealized, kind of almost abstract rendering. I think it has a wonderful whimsy and charm, and I think this would be a fun project to do with your children or grandchildren. The simplicity of this really does add to the charm. It's been a pleasure and a blessing to create over 200 videos over the past 2 years on my YouTube channel. I have lots more new projects planned for the Christmas season. Those will be appearing this week. In the meantime, do take care. Thanks for watching, and God bless.